Something else I would like to try to do is see if I can get it to work with my Philips Hue lights. So I don't know if you remember, but from one of my past videos, I could not get Mycroft working with my Philips Hue lights. And yeah, I just had no luck in the video. I tried spending some time outside of videos getting it to work with my Philips Hue lights, but no matter what I tried, including doing this whole configuration thing with JSON and all these different things with HuePy, I could not get it work no matter how much I wanted it to work. So I've come up with an idea that I think will probably work this time. So I think rather than trying to use this Mycroft skill and getting it to work, I think it might be better if I sort of reinvent the wheel in this case. So reinventing the wheel, as I mentioned earlier in this casual video, isn't always the best thing, but sometimes it might actually be the best solution. So I'm trying to get this skill to work with my Philips Hue lights, as I mentioned before, but I just can't get it to work. It uses all these different practices that I feel like overcomplicate everything. I think there's probably a simpler way. So rather than trying to get this to work, which I spent hours doing already, I might actually be better off trying to figure out how to get it to work in Python to begin with, and then making it work with the voice assistant. So basically getting my Philips Hue working in Python as it is, without the voice assistant, just getting it to work in raw Python using like an SDK or something, and then using that to create my own skill around it. I think that would probably be a more useful way to do it. So that's exactly what we're gonna do, or at least attempt to do. So first of all, there's a couple different libraries that actually work with the Philips Hue. This one looked pretty promising to me out of everything I looked at so far. I'm going to use something called Phue for Philips Hue. So you can install that in Python using pip install. I think I probably already loaded that. So this is basically trying to demonstrate some basic usage of it. So let's see if we can get something working in Python in general. So I'm going to open up an environment that I think should work. Create a new Python script, probably call it Philips Hue.py. And I think I already installed phue, not sure, let's find out. So I would normally just say pip install phue. I think I may have already installed it though, I'm not sure yet. Looks like I haven't. So now it should be installed, hopefully. So now I'm gonna try to get my bridge set up with it. So in order to do that, the best way I think for retrieving the IP address is to go onto my phone and then go to the Hue Pro app, which is what I like to typically use. That's the way I like to interface with it, so I can just shut off my lights directly from it or turn it back on. But I can go to here and I can see that the IP address is .0.14. So that's what I need to do on my actual program. So right here, I just changed that to .0.14, I think. And I have not registered my Philips Hue bridge yet, so I do want this .connect also. So we could probably try to run that alone and just see if that works. Now the other thing we're going to have to keep in mind is this will actually be run in a different environment, so we're going to have to connect it again when we're running it for real. So let's try running it once and see if that works. I'm just gonna say Python 3 Philips Hue .py. Oh, yeah, I can just run regular Python. On Mac, I use Python 3. So the link button has not been pressed in the last 30 seconds. So that means I probably want to press it right now. So good to know. I'm basically supposed to press it before the script is executed and it knows that it's been pressed in the last 30 seconds. So I'm going to go to my Philips Hue bridge and press the button. Now I pressed it. So in theory it should register. There we go. It knows that I pressed it. Which means now I can come to here and comment that out. So in theory, we now have an actual connection to our Philips Hue bridge. Even that alone is pretty exciting. So it's kind of hard to know exactly how this works. But let's try this once. I think I have 3 lights and it's probably 1, 2, 3. If I can reference it by an index like that, that actually simplifies quite a bit. So let's get the name of the first light. See if we can... Let's actually print that and see if we can get that. So if I run this, lamp 1, I must have named that in the Philips Hue app directly. If I come back on my phone and, oh boy, I got an Amber Alert on here. That's really unfortunate, especially this late at night. I am sorry for whoever's going through that right now. So if I go to the regular Philips Hue app, which is in my miscellaneous, then I go to my light. Yeah, lamp 1, lamp 2, and 3. Lamp 2 is exactly what I thought it was. Lamp 3 is the one toward the window, I think. Oh no, it's not. I got my lamp 1 and lamp 3 all mixed up. Well, regardless, that's pretty exciting. So basically it's just 1, 2, 3. That simplifies things quite a lot. So I would assume that if I go to the beginning, increment that to 2, I'll get lamp 2, then lamp 3. I would assume, oops, gotta do 3, not 4. There we go. So we have a way to classify all of our lamps. That's actually kind of nice. So now let's see if we can get some control. So how am I going to do this as a skill for my voice assistant? Well, basically it comes down to figuring out how you would do it in normal Python. Then I can figure out how to make that voice command driven. Ultimately, that's my approach. I also wanted to show this on the video rather than doing it myself, just to show like how creating a skill doesn't really have to be all that intimidating. How do you do it in Python? Then from there you can figure out how to turn that into a skill, right? So that's pretty much all there is to it. So now that we've got our lights, so in theory, set light. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. So that's gonna say on no matter what. On is like this whole parameter. We'll probably look at some of the source code to get a good idea on exactly how that works. Of course, I don't want that whole bathroom garage stuff. So I'm just gonna delete this. Delete everything in the brackets. That doesn't work in Atom because the Vim emulation's not perfect. So if I say 1 on false, I think that should in theory turn off lamp 1. This has to say on regardless because that's what the variable is called. Is it on? True or false, basically. Nice. So that's actually quite straightforward. If I want to turn off number 3, it'll get a little dark, just a little warning. And I go like this. Nice. So then I can change this to true if I want to turn it back on. And then same with 1. Nice. That's actually kind of cool. So there we go. That's all we really have to do to turn a light on and off. So that's pretty straightforward. So I can be like, turn off my lights. All I have to do is run this to turn them on. And then just change this to false to turn them all off. So for now, I'll just comment that out. That way we know how we turn lights on and stuff. Toggle lights right here. So just changing the brightness alone is a bit different than changing the whether it's actually on or off. Setting it to 0 brightness, of course, is not the same thing as actually turning it off. It'll have a little bit of brightness yet. So I think there should be, wow, we can do like a whole transition time. It's kind of advanced. I probably don't see myself using that with voice commands, but I could program voice commands to do that if I wanted. Oh, sweet. So setting the brightness is actually quite simple and straightforward. A little bit more than I thought it would be. So I'll just do a set brightness. This is more of an experimental script. This isn't my actual skill. We'll create the skill once we learn how this actually works, basically. So if I were to just set this to 0, then I assume it'll be as dark as it can be. Let's actually do that same thing for all of the lights. See if I can get them to be all the way dark. Yeah, so 0% brightness is as dark as it goes, basically. I have this dimmer switch right here, and if I hold it on the dim part, not going any darker than that. So that's what 0 brightness does. So I think 254 is literally the max it can do. 50% is that. That would actually be kind of cool if I can do a half brightness. If I can be Star Trek style and just tell it half brightness. Then I could literally retrieve whatever the number is and divide it by 2. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? So let's turn it back on, of course. So this is 254. Too bad that Atom doesn't support macros with the Vim plugin. I'll be showing some stuff with that later on, but not on this Philips Hue stuff. There we go. That is pretty cool. So let's comment that out, of course. So we now know how to toggle the lights and set the brightness. Pretty straightforward. It's actually a little more straightforward than I thought it would be. So I thought I'd have to do this whole retrieving what light is what, but it's just sequential. And where it's really cool is with a Philips Hue, you can have up to 50 lights on a single bridge, I think. So you can address it as 1 to 50, because it starts with 1, not 0. So what is this now? I'm just kind of curious to see what this provides. I might not actually use it, but if I print that, what does that give me? Wow. Those are all the different things I can mess with. I'm not going to use that now. So I guess if we wanted to have a better understanding of how it actually works, we can go to this library right here. And we can see that it's using object-oriented programming. Those are all the different variables that you can have. And so if I wanted to do a color temperature control, for example, I think it can reference things by an XY value. I might convert an RGB value into that, or color temperature. There's a bunch of converter functions. So actually there's a color temp. Looks like I can set the color temperature. So if I wanted, so what is this, a range of color temperature? Oh wait, color temp K, that's the unit that I'm used to. 2000 to 6500 is about what I would expect. So if I wanted to set the color temperature, I assume it's the lamp number, then what I set it to. So I could probably go like b dot color temp underscore K. Say I wanted to set lamp 1 to 5000 K. Then I think I should be able to do that. Maybe. Let's get rid of this too. Let's run that. Bridge has no attribute color temp K. There might be some special way to reference it. I'm not really sure. You probably have to reference the lamp in some way. Maybe using like the lamp getter or something like that. Actually, we could probably use the set light right here rather than saying color temp K. You can probably use b.setLight, and then this color temp K could be, so lamp 1, what we're setting is in fact color temp K, and then 5K. That might be how you do it. Color temp K may not. I don't know how this works exactly. I'm not going to worry about that tonight if I'm being perfectly honest. I'll maybe experiment with that later on while talking about future improvements to the voice assistant. This is one of them. Making it actually work with my lights. Be kind of cool. There's all these different color controls too. There might be a simple way to do it, but I'm not concerned about that. I could probably get away with just turning it on and off if I'm being perfectly honest. Maybe that's all I'm going to worry about for tonight, and then I'll make some improvements off camera and show you in the next video what I've done with it. Probably what I've done with the experimentation here, and then what I've actually done in the skill itself. So I guess to get it to interface with the voice assistant, then I want to have this run the first time, but press the button 30 seconds before I issue the command, or at least issue the command within 30 seconds of pressing the button on the bridge. And then I'm pretty much set. This IP address has a DHCP reservation, so it'll never change. As far as I'm concerned, it's a static IP, so that'll be nice. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much know everything we need to get it working. So now let's create the skill, shall we? So how do I want this skill to be structured? So I'm going to think about some abstract things about how the skill is going to work before I start. Otherwise, I could just get started and then change my mind several times during the process. That's fine too. But I want to think about a couple things ahead of time. So first of all, how am I going to know what commands I'm saying? I think I'm going to treat it pretty much like all my other scripts, if I'm being perfectly honest. So if we look at my other scripts, and then in the Mycroft skills init, the open script, we can see that the mechanism I'm using for the actual command is this whole results thing with message.data.get utterance. So it gets the raw utterance of whatever I'm doing. Maybe I want to define my commands within the init script. So there's a whole bunch of different ways I can do it in best practices. I don't think I want to even follow the best practices at all. So I'm just going to go into here. So I could obviously go into the locale enus and then look at the open.intent. I could declare all my commands right here and then somehow program them, but I think it'd be easier to just put one thing here than detect what I'm actually saying inside the skill itself. If that doesn't make sense, I'm gonna kind of progress along, and then maybe it'll make a little more sense. In the future, I'm hoping to do a whole series on basically making my skills from scratch and going over my thought processes, and then you can kind of see how to create skills, and then you can pretty much create anything you want. Hopefully that's my goal, because it's kind of hard to find how to do it online. I pretty much did a bunch of trial and error, but I kind of like to have a structured, practical, I would say course, but I don't want to charge anything for it. This is not how I make my living, so I would rather release this for free if I do anything like that. That's something I'm hoping to do in the future. Figure it'd be a way to give back, but anyway, I think I'm going to structure it exactly how I have this. Then that way I can just determine what I actually want to run inside of this code right here. I'm actually going to use my skill creator that I've shown in a past casual video as well. But I mean, I show how to create a skill on that live stream the normal way, but I have a skill creator which should help save us time. I'm going to use that skill creator right now to save us time basically. And I guess I'll show how I would use that to make this work too. Once you get the skill created, then the programming from there is exactly the same no matter how it's created pretty much. So, hey Mycroft, help me create a skill in Windows. So, what do we want to call the skill? So, yeah, I have a skill that helped me create other skills. That's what kind of lunatic I am, but whatever. I'll just call it Philips Hue. It's going to end up being lowercase anyway. My skill creator will take care of all that. I'm not even going to worry about my example phrases right now. I'm going to hard code stuff for right now, but in the future I want to come back to this and do better practices. I might even show how to do it on one of these casual videos. I'm going to do some research on better practices in general. This is going to definitely test our skills when it comes to making a fairly dynamic skill where you can be very flexible on how you issue your commands. It's going to be an interesting lesson for that too. Because what if I want to be dynamic in my commands and say like, do a 3500K color temperature, or do a 4969 or whatever. Say I want to do some very specific number like that. Well, then I can't manually code that all. I have to have a dynamic system in place. So I want to cover how to do that. Not in this video, but in the future. That's something I want to do. Right now, I don't really care what phrases I put in. I'm going to maybe write the types of phrases I may end up doing. Actually, I'm going to hard code them all right here. Then in the future, I may come up with a more dynamic system. I really just want to turn my lights on and off. So I might do turn off my lights, turn on my lights, and then let's see, do I want to double the brightness? Well, should I just do double brightness and have the command be that short? And then half brightness? I'm not going to fully idiot proof this thing. That's another improvement that I obviously want to make to the voice assistant. Maybe idiot proofing it somewhat. But that's okay. I'm not going to do that for right now. I could just say like adjusting the lights. I don't even care what this says since I don't use auditory feedback from the voice assistant. I could, but whatever. I don't care about the description either, so I'm just gonna put that. I don't know what commands I'm even gonna run yet, so I'm just gonna put an os.system placeholder because my skill creator is kind of designed around that. I'll replace it with whatever I want to replace it with. So that's it. Let's bring it back into my Hi. Hey Mycroft. I finished my Windows skill. So this tells me that it is creating the skill now. So now, in theory, if I come out of here, I should have a Philips Hue skill. That's what I just created. So now I can go into there, and I basically have the whole structure for the skill that I want to create. So now I'm gonna go into my init file. There's my placeholder right there. So I don't remember exactly how I'm gonna do this. So let's focus on retrieving my command at this point. Let's actually think about getting it to recognize exactly what I want, since I actually hard coded stuff. So I'm gonna do that. I want to make sure it still works even though I press Control C. Hey Mycroft, what's 9 times 5? You didn't see that, but it did work according to my LED. I have a status LED for whether it's listening or not. So right here, I think I'm going to pull up my main skill so I can take bits and pieces from it. Actually, why don't we just use the retrieve from Vim? I'll try to retrieve some lines from it. Well, let's pull up our utterances since I do want to see that. Probably do that in this window. So the utterances that I currently have are skills. I could probably pull it in and comment all those lines out actually. Let's do that. I'm going to put my utterances right here, so I'm going to retrieve all the lines from that particular file. So .bang opt, I'll put a space here, wait, cats, because I'll do the whole file. Mycroft skills open, nope, not my open script, the Philips Hue one, locale enus dot intent. So those are, so at the beginning I'll basically put that. I'll comment out all those lines. Now I can see what my actual utterances are. So basically now I want to retrieve my mechanism for looking at my utterances to begin with. So I'll come over to my open script, because I'm basically just gonna steal some of my own code. I don't need to get arrested for stealing my own code. This is open source anyway, so you guys can steal this code if you want. I don't care. So basically, to retrieve the utterance, this is what I'm doing. Message.data.get utterance. And I'll put that under where this os.system is. Oops, that's not what I want. Maybe I should just pull in the line, since I know what the line number is. I want lines 42 to 44, and then my fuzzy search mechanism. This is too complicated. I think I'm actually gonna look at one of my other skills, like maybe the search one, because I think I use the same mechanism in there. It's just a lot simpler. So what I want right here is those 2 lines. Yeah, let's retrieve lines. Is that really 16? I don't know. Let's retrieve lines 17 and 18 right here. So right there, I'm gonna retrieve lines 17 and 18 from my search skill. So we got that in there now. And then let's see here. So this is what my utterances will look like. It's pretty much nothing but this. Do I want to utilize certain parts of it, or what do I want to do? So this is basically what I actually want to do right here. The second word kind of dictates whether I'm turning it on or off. So what I may as well do is put it into an array of words. So I want to retrieve line, I think that 23. Yeah. So right here, I'm going to retrieve line 23 from that file. Come on. This thing froze for a second. Don't know what happened there. So this time I want line 23 from that file. So query words. So basically it puts all these words like turn off my lights into an array. Index 1 tells me exactly what I want to do. So what I'm going to do from here is check if this query words index 1 is equal to off. I think that's a fairly reliable way to check. FYI, I have special indentation in Vim so that it properly works with Python. I'm going to show that later in this video too. Not this excerpt if you're watching the excerpt of this, but there should be an excerpt on how I do that. Just look at my Vim RC in general, because that has how I properly indent right here. So anyway, that's if you're into Vim stuff, otherwise disregard that. So if I say off, then as far as I'm concerned, this is what I want to do when I turn off the lights. Right, turn off the lights. Anything related to that goes here. So as we previously determined, well, actually, this is a library that we're importing, technically speaking. So we're gonna actually have to install that library. Well, yeah, that's probably why we need the manifest file for this, because this runs in a Python environment, and by specifying a library, it can probably take dependencies from the main environment into the Mycroft one. That's probably how it handles that, if I had to guess. So actually, well, let's assume we already have the library imported. We'll take care of that later on, but let's assume that we've already got that figured out at this point. So then what I want to do, if I come back to here, is b equals bridge. I'll just kind of copy and paste this. I'll see if that works. Yep. Not sure if that indentation's actually correct or not. Now it should be correct if it wasn't before. And actually, we don't really want to dictate that down there. We don't want it up here either, because that should happen probably in this initialize function. Although whether or not we'll be able to access a variable is a little questionable. For now, just for simplicity's sake, I'm fine redoing this over and over again, even though that's not really the best way to do it. For now, I'm fine with it because it's simple. So that b equals bridge is what I want. So then I'm turning off all the lights, right? So technically that means I can copy that. And then I'll probably paste it right there. I'm gonna put everything on the left, and then that way I can just be consistent with my indentation. Oh, and then actually, let's put it right here, because that's what we're really doing. Oh, did I not copy 3? There's number 3. So rather than saying true, we're gonna say false, false, false. So that should actually be enough to turn off the lights. We just have to issue the command. So where we have all these utterances, right, I actually put them right here. See, this is good thing I put them there for reference. Let's actually put it toward the bottom. Let's put that toward the bottom instead of the top. That way I can easily see it. So any of these phrases will basically trigger the same skill. But this word will trigger this particular code. So now let's do on, because that'll actually be quite simple. So let's jump back up to here. Let's yank that and paste it. This will be changed to L if the query words equals on. Then we're going to turn on the lights. And over here, we'll just set that to true. That's it. Now we have a mechanism for turning on the lights too. In theory, that's all that's required. You see how it's not all that complicated? So as far as a double brightness, that's a little bit trickier because we have to retrieve whatever the current brightness is. Let's do that right now before we do any testing. I'm taking a leap of faith, doing everything at once, but we did do some testing here, so I assume we can interpolate it onto our skill. So if I want to get the brightness, how do I retrieve? So let's get the name of the lamp. So if I look at the actual source code, there should be a thing called name somewhere. See, those are the different things we can get. So that's underscored, but I think that's for the objects or something. So we can get the name in that fashion. So I'm guessing we can get the brightness in the same fashion. Not 100% sure. We can test it right here though. So I'm going to create a print statement right there. So where we normally get the name, we can just change it to brightness. So get light, get the name basically. So rather than name here, we can just put brightness, I think. And then that'll retrieve the brightness of our light. So this is causing errors right now. I think I'm just gonna comment it out because we may mess around with that some other day. Brightness is not a valid key. Oh, BRI is probably what it actually is, not brightness. Try BRI once. So if we can get that value, then all we really have to do is divide that by 2. So I'll just copy this. Well, no, not even necessary. I could just divide that by 2, then we should get half of it. And I'll probably want to floor that. Then that way it's a nice number. So math is a native function, I believe. So I can just say math.floor. Then we get 127 specifically. So that's how I would do the half brightness. I just get whatever it is and floor it. That'll be close enough. And I'm not going to try to idiot proof the edge cases. I'm going to use it the right way. So it'll be fine. So this will be pretty handy right here. We're going to have to see if we can get a whole list of all the things we can retrieve, like the brightness. We're kind of lucky that we have that handy. So now I'm just going to paste that somewhere and probably comment it out. So now we'll basically copy this again. That wasn't the most efficient way to do it, but the double word, we can probably, actually we're going to want to also probably make it case insensitive. Might not be necessary, but doesn't hurt either. So I'll just say dot lower, then dot lower. That'll probably make our life a bit easier. It is still index 1 with the on. It's index 1 with everything actually. So we'll change this to double. And then this is the mechanism we're using to retrieve the brightness. So let's just jump to here and change the comment to double the brightness. So to double the brightness, what we want to do is let's retrieve the code where we actually set the brightness also, which is right here. We'll just copy that and paste it where we did this one too. So I think what we actually want is to get rid of those right there. And then that actual b.setLight, that's what we want. The b.setLight. And rather than just saying 254, we can do the b.getLight divided by 2. I think that's all we need to put right there. Might be kind of a long line, but doesn't really matter that much. I think that's all that's required to, well, that's supposed to be multiply, of course, but then we can just copy those lines and change it to wait, this is index 0, not 1, so there's another thing that I just realized we had wrong. That's 0, so is that. So let's now we're going to divide by 2 instead of multiply for the half brightness. I think that might be all we have to do for doing the half brightness stuff. Then we can get rid of all that stuff. I'll maybe leave this for now in case we need to mess with it again. So technically, that's all we have to do. We will have to also do a b.connect. b.connect so we can get it working in that isolated environment. But we also will need to import that Philips Hue library the way we were before. So we're gonna have to get that Hue library in our environment. So as far as I'm concerned, we probably have a valid working script right now. It's probably all that's needed to make it work. We might not have any errors. Wouldn't that be crazy if it worked on the first try? Well, where did I put that .connect? Right there. Good. So now we need to go into the manifest file. See, I don't need to say OS right there, but I think I do need the Hue, or what was it called again? Let's see. Yes. That's like the actual library that we're importing that bridge thing from. Let's try to make this somewhat universal. I think that'll work. This might not even be the right syntax for all I know. If it doesn't work, I'm literally just gonna say that's where the problem is. So am I crazy enough to make this work? Let's go into our right here, and then let's try to restart only the skills service and see if we can get away with that. So skills restart, because we just modified the skill. And then we'll go into the CLI part, and then we'll maybe get a idea. Ooh, the skill failed to load. So this is why. Probably just had the parentheses wrong. 1 left. 2, 1, 0. So we have an extra parenthesis. That's what we screwed up on, it looks like. I forgot to check which line it is, but I trust that we'll find it. So let's go into the Philips Hue and find where we have this. Yeah, I think pretty much everywhere here we just need 1 parenthesis. How'd that happen? So let's go into here, restart the skills, and load the CLI. Hopefully there's no errors this time. We did not get it on the first try. I was kind of expecting a behavioral thing to not work on the first try, but that was a syntax error that failed. So I like to watch this and make sure that no errors ended up happening. Okay, now it says remote configuration updated, so I'm gonna guess that it must have loaded successfully. I didn't see any errors. So we see if it works. We're not going to run the .connect thing every time. I think if we leave it there, it'll be perfectly fine. Now we got to hit the button before we issue the command, remember? So now, hopefully this will work. Hey Mycroft, turn off my lights. Hey Mycroft, turn off my lights. Maybe we need to get rid of that .connect right now. Let's try that, see if getting rid of it will work. It might actually be ruining everything now. So let's try that. Restart the skills service. And now we've loaded it, so let's try it. Hey Mycroft, turn off my lights. We might be having a weird interfacing issue. I don't know. It might be something weird with the Python environment. I'm not really sure. Why don't do I have Phue installed in general? Do I do like pip install Phue? How about pip 3? That's a little interesting. Hey Mycroft, turn off my lights. There might be a config file stored somewhere that just isn't working. I don't know. Why don't I try to replicate the situation somewhat? I want to try to see if I can do it from my virtual environment in general. So if I look at my script from the launch right here, I want to try to create a Python script and run things from that environment right there. So I'm basically gonna switch to that environment right now. So now I'm in that virtual environment. So if I try test Philips.py, if I were to try to import this, create the bridge, and then let's create some sort of variable just to make sure it works in an if statement. I'll just set some sort of boolean to true, then so it equals true, then if boolean, which will happen. Then let's run the turn off the lights. I kind of want to just manually retrieve it. I just think it'll be a little bit easier. So I'm trying to get stuff from, oops, I have to actually retrieve, tell it to do that. And that's from the Philips Hue skill. So what lines do I want? Basically 25 through 27. So now I'll come back here and then I'll change my command to actually get some text at 25 to 27. Then I can just change the indentation to the right thing. So I can see if this will work now when I'm within my Python environment. I think Python 3 is what actually gets used. So that worked within my virtual environment. I wonder if it created some sort of temporary config. Sorry, it's a little hard to see me. So I'll try to fix that real quick. Let's fix my lighting now. That was fast too, holy crap. Does it work with normal Python? That didn't change anything, so let's set it back to false. Oops. See if that works. Yeah, it doesn't matter which environment we're actually in. It'll work regardless. Hey Mycroft. Half brightness. Oh, interesting. Ooh. So we gotta do a little bit of error handling now. Gotta do like that's a general Python thing. All I can think of is we just simply put the ones with less words before the one with more words, then it won't error out if it executes in that order. Come on. Having some random network glitches or something. So this should be if, and that should be elif. In theory, that should fix that particular issue, but I can't imagine the half brightness working when the normal brightness doesn't. I just don't see that happening. I think I'll look at it overnight and we'll try to go over what the fix was tomorrow if I can get it fixed. Otherwise, we'll just deal with it later. I'm gonna assume that it would work. I got the Philips Hue skill finally working on my own, so here's a couple things worth noting about that. First of all, I had the index wrong on the if statement, so I commented out a line that was previously getting rid of the first keyword from the utterance. I took the mechanism from my open script and never want to deal with the very first word, but here I actually do for phrases like double brightness, because double is the first word and that provides exactly what I want to do. The double and half brightness weren't working because I was previously using math.floor and I somehow pasted it wrong and needed to import math and add that back into the script. When I troubleshoot and try to look at a variable in Mycroft, typically a print statement doesn't work, so I execute the echo command with the variable in an F string, and that allows me to see the output. I also forgot to include all my lights in the half and double brightness statements. Once we get around that issue, I think it has to do with where the configuration is saved. If I was able to maybe make it save somewhere else, that might fix it. I really don't know what's going on. So I'm not going to worry about that for right now.